Imagine if you ran a business 20 years ago. What do you think would be the defining factor of how your business succeeds? You're probably thinking about things such as how good the product is, but what I'm mainly thinking about is the product location, or where your location of your business is. There's no internet, there was no online selling. When you had physical brick and mortar businesses, the location of your business is what brought the most attention. So if you had a really nice setup, a really nice location, you had a really fancy store, then people were attracted by that. They would go in and they might purchase a product and then tell the next person. And then everyone would flock to your store to buy whatever product that you're selling. The world today is very different, where your attention as an online business, if you're running an online tutoring business, is purely determined by how well you present yourself on your social medias, whether it be on Instagram, whether it be on your ads, whether it be on your YouTube, whatever platform you're talking about. How you present yourself is what's going to get you more interested leads. It's also going to help you convert those interested leads into paying clients, because not only is how you present yourself a reflection of your business, it's a reflection of you. And in the business world these days, people are more sold by other people rather than ideas. Everyone has the same idea. If you're a tutor and you have really good scores, for example, or you scored the highest possible score in your state, or you've tutored this amount of times, or you've tutored for this number of years, or you have these testimonials. That's all well and good, but everyone is in the same position as you. When you boil it down, there are so many other tutors that have exactly the same specifications as you. So how do you present yourself? You have to be able to record better, you have to be able to present better, and you have to do it in a comfortable way to make the audience member resonate with you. Now, when I first started my tutoring business, I was so poor at presenting. I was not able to record behind a camera. I was not able to speak in front of an audience. And there were reasons behind this, such as I was a bit insecure about how I looked, a bit insecure about how I spoke, but eventually you get over those things. What I'm going to be running through in this video is, for your tutoring business, 3 unconventional tips for you to improve your presentation, your speaking, and your recording skills to go from really timid and someone who doesn't want to speak behind a camera or in front of a group of people to people will start calling you a natural presenter and a natural recorder. And I was able to make this transition relatively quickly when I first started my business, and this was the sticking point for me to not only resonate with my audience, but to bring in a larger audience and to be able to convert that audience in the easiest way possible. And of course, when I say convert my audience, I mean converting potential clients to actual paying clients and making my business as much money as possible. Now, these aren't just going to be the standard tips. You need to present in front of a camera, you need to watch yourself back, you need to keep on practicing. It's not going to be those standard tips that you've heard and you probably researched as well. These are going to be the tips that are unconventional that I use to help me progress into a natural quote unquote presenter. Even though I wasn't a natural presenter at all, a lot of people at uni can attest to that, because my presentation skills were really bad. I mean, really bad. But I was able to fix that up in a way that was able to help me present in front of an audience, and it actually helped me with a lot of other things in life. It helped me with my general communication skills. It helped me with my full-time job as well. So I'm going to go through the 3 tips. I'm going to cut the video and we're going to be breaking down those 3 tips and exactly how you can implement them to present in a lot better way towards your audience and also towards your clients as well. Now, tip 1 is the purpose. What is the purpose behind the video that you're recording? What is the purpose behind the presentation that you're doing? What is the purpose behind the call that you're hosting with your client? What is the purpose behind whatever you're presenting? This is super critical, because whenever you're presenting something, whenever you're recording something, or whenever you're speaking to someone, there always has to be an underlying purpose as to why you're speaking to them. And you always have to link that back, not only directly through your words, but also indirectly in your mind. So if I'm presenting this video, I want to make it really clear that these are the 3 tips that you need to be able to present better with your videos and with your calls and with your presentations as well. Now, if I don't link it back to that, then what's the purpose of this video? I'm just blabbering along. I'm not really saying anything. You're not really getting much value out of the video. So what's the purpose of me actually recording this video? What I want to do throughout this whole video is always reference back to the purpose. Why do we want to be able to present better? Because we want to be able to resonate with our audience better. Why do we want to resonate with our audience better? Because that increases conversion from potential customer to customer. Why do we want more customers? Because we want to make more money for our tutoring business. I always need to link that back to this video to make sure that not only you as an audience member are involved in what I'm saying and you actually resonate with what I'm saying and you believe it, But it's also a reminder to me to be able to make sure that I'm always on track and I'm always sticking to the purpose of this video. So whenever you're making a video, always link back to what is the purpose? Why are you making this video? What's the importance to the audience member? And keep on hammering that down, because trust me, if you say something once, they're not going to remember it. But if you say something 5 times, if I say in this video, purpose is super important, and I actually integrate it into what I'm saying, I could say it indirectly or I could say it directly, then you're going to believe it. And at the end of this video, you're going to realize that purpose is so important, and you're going to look back and think, hey, Adrian recorded this video and he really emphasized the purpose behind recording. And he really emphasized the purpose behind having a purpose when you're recording stuff. So integrate it in all your videos, integrate it in everything that you do in terms of your ad, in terms of your Instagram posts, in terms of your YouTube videos, and actually, really importantly, do it in your tutoring calls as well. What is the purpose of someone learning this? What is the purpose behind recording this video? What is the purpose behind this call? Don't just have tutoring calls once per week with your clients and just think that they just know what they're doing. Set it up in a way, you are the authoritative figure because you're the tutor and they're the student. So understand the purpose behind learning these things, understand the purpose behind explaining it in a certain way, and explain to them. Explain why you would do the question in a certain way and why you wouldn't do other ways. Because this way is the most efficient, this way is the most foolproof, this way doesn't rely on any external processes. This way to solving this equation, if you're doing a maths problem, let's say, this way to solving this equation is the best way because it's the fastest, because it's the most foolproof, because of whatever reason. Explain it like that. Don't just say things to them. Explain the reasons why. That is the importance of purpose whenever you're presenting. So this is super important for not only just general presentations to audience, not only to videos on your online platforms, not only to ads, but everything that you do, including when you text, when you call, when you have classes with your students as well. Now, the second tip to presenting in the best way possible, as quickly as possible, is your movement and your expressions. You can see that in this video, I'm moving around a lot. I'm using my hands a lot. That's just because that's my personality. I come from an Italian background. So, there's always these things, the Italian stereotype of, doing that reaction and doing other facial expressions and other, hand gestures. But that should be what you're doing in your videos as well. I'm not saying you should force it. I'm saying that you have to do it in a strategic way and do it in a normal conversational way that you would normally do. So if you're trying to emphasize certain points, then start using hand expressions. And if you want to focus in on one thing, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop moving because it puts a lot of emphasis on what I'm saying. So I try to do that as an experiment, but your hand expressions go along with your tone. So if I'm, in a lively mood, if I'm in a conversational tone, I might use a lot of hand expressions. I might use, more gestures. But if I'm trying to emphasize a certain point, then I would stop moving as much. I would slow down my tone. I would slow down my cadence, and I would focus in on this. And you can notice that it puts a lot of emphasis on that. So it not only helps with the conversational part of what I'm explaining, but it also helps with when I'm trying to focus in on a certain point, the change between them, the change between having movement in my gestures versus no movement and no gestures. So there's a nice balance when it comes to it. And again, you have to practice everything. But what you'll notice is that when you start moving around, when you start presenting in a really conversational way and you start engaging with your hand gestures as well as your words and as well as your facial expressions, that's when the audience members will really resonate to you, because it'll just feel like to them that you're just being conversational. Well, I'm just having a conversation with you. I'm just trying to explain something to you. You're not even going to realize that you're going to be watching a YouTube video or whatever platform you're watching this on. They're not even going to realize that. They're just going to be saying, hey, this guy's just talking to me, because that's what it's going to feel like. And that is the conversational tone that you need to have in some of your videos. I'm not saying you always need to have a conversational tone, but if I'm just generally talking about something, then the conversational tone and using hand gestures to emphasize that is the best way to do it. So what are the tips so far? We talked about having purpose behind everything you say and always linking back to your purpose directly and indirectly. And we also have movement and gestures and being able to match that with tone to emphasize certain points. So they're the first 2 points. The third one, which I would say these are all equally important, but I guess if you want to emphasize one first, this would be the most important, because you can set that up right now without actually practicing your presentation and your recording skills. It's going to be genuine, and I really want to emphasize genuine expertise in what you're saying. Now, when I say expertise in what you're saying, you have to have an explanation behind everything. This could be things that are technical, these could be things that are non-technical, but you need to be able to explain things in a really thorough way, and you need to be explaining them in a way that's understandable by whoever's watching, your audience member, your student, your potential client, whoever it is. You want to be presenting it in a way where you have genuine expertise. Now, I'm not saying that you just need to use all this jargon and all this fancy terminology. It would actually be the opposite of that. You need to be able to understand something so complex and be able to dumb it down. Or you need to be able to simplify it so much that someone can easily understand it, even if they have no context. So I'll give you an example, right? If we're just taking a maths concept, such as differentiation, we don't want to just be explaining to the students the rules of differentiation. This function becomes this function rule becomes that function. We need to understand what differentiation is, why it exists, why is it derived in that certain way, how do we actually get those function rules, how do we get those formulas? And you need to be able, if a student asks anything like that, you need to be able to explain it. But even before they ask it, you should be explaining it in that way as well. So that's what you should be doing when it comes to technical videos and technical presentations and just tutoring calls when it comes to actual teaching. But you need to have questions for everything else. For example, if a student comes to you and asks any question about how they should structure their day, their study routine, have genuine answers ready. You need to be well versed with everything that you need to know in order to help these students succeed. So this is another question that goes well beyond this video. What do students actually need to succeed? Now, of course, there's a variety of things that might come to your mind. You could think about knowledge. You could think about handling pressure during test scenarios. You could think about sleep. You could think about maintaining a proper exercise and diet routine. You could think about a study routine, of course. There's all these questions that they could ask that you need to have answers to. I'm not saying those answers need to be 100% correct, but they could be something where you're just explaining it. You're just explaining what you did when you were going through, their year level, or you were going through their subject. And what have other successful people done? So it could be anecdotal expertise, but ideally it would be a combination of anecdotal expertise plus research-backed expertise, or just, technically true concepts. So when it comes to any question that they ask, you have genuine expertise to what they're saying. Now, of course, this applies to anything. When you're trying to sell a service, you want to be as expertise as possible when it comes to those points. But even when it comes to presenting, when you have genuine expertise in what you're saying and you have really, really sound knowledge, then it becomes super easy to present those points. And it's going to make your presentation, your presentation routine a lot easier, because you're just freestyling whatever you already know. So just like me with this video, I've not only practiced this video a little bit, but I've kind of figured out these points as I practice my presentation skills when building up my business. So these points really resonate with me and I really understand them because that's what I did. And that's why I'm able to present it in a really concise way without really having too much of a script. I'm just kind of freestyling off the top of my head. But if you don't have that expertise, it makes it really hard to present in a concise way. And it's going to sound really robotic. If you want to lose the roboticness out of your videos and out of your presentations and out of your sessions, then you need to be able to have genuine expertise in what you're saying. Now, just in terms of a technical concept that you might teach for your math subject, for your English subject, for your history subject, if you hypothetically explain something to your student, like in terms of what they do, so let's say if they have a question and they answer it in a certain way, then you might explain to them like what you do to answer the question in that certain way. But with everything that you explain, think about from now on, so this video is going to split your life into two halves. Before this, you might have not been doing this. After you watch this video, always explain to them why you do that step, even if it's just a couple of words or just a short phrase. If you have a really basic maths concept, such as rearranging for x, let's say just hopefully everyone understands this example. If you have x plus 3 is equal to 5, straight away, you might be saying to them, okay, x plus 3 is equal to 5, therefore x is equal to 2. But genuinely, genuinely, even for these basic things, such as just minusing 3 on both sides, they might know what to do to get x equals 2. But did you explain why? So why you do minus 3 to both sides is because you want to cancel out the 3's. And then you get on the other side x plus, on one side x plus 3 minus 3, on the other side you get 5 minus 3, which is equal to 2. And even if it's something as basic like that, if you get into the routine of explaining whys, the whys behind things, then that genuine understanding and that genuine expertise will come out for harder concepts. So when they ask those questions for other concepts, you'll be able to have an answer because you've thought about it. You've thought about the whys for everything now, because we're doing it for the most basic and mundane things. So we want to be doing it for the most difficult things. So when we're talking about the hardest formulas that we need to apply when it comes to probability, when it comes to calculus, I'm really maths emphasizing here because I used to be a maths tutor, but when it comes to more harder concepts or more difficult concepts, you should be explaining why you need to structure it in a certain way. If we're going away from math stuff, then if they have an essay answer for English or an essay answer for history or some sort of humanities, why do they structure their response in that way? And you have to have an answer for it. Why do you need to emphasize these points when answering this type of question? I'm not sure what other examples that we have, but hopefully you're watching this and you can relate this to your certain subject. Think about the whys behind why they need to answer questions in certain ways, and that genuine expertise will not only come out when you're presenting, but you'll be able to understand why things are the way that they are. And if you don't understand, then it's fine. Figure it out. When I was tutoring for 6 years, right? I did the subject in year 12 or year 11 or whenever I did it. I scored relatively well and I tutored it for 6 years. And by the end of it, I was still learning stuff, which is, you might think, oh, that's crazy. You still didn't know everything. Genuinely, I didn't know everything, but I didn't know the whys behind everything. I knew how to answer most of the questions, or if not all the question types, but I wanted to have an explanation as to why things are the way that they are. So I could explain it to my students. And when I explained it to them like that, then I never forgot it. And not only did I not forget it, they didn't forget it, because if they understand the why, then there's nothing stopping them from just understanding everything. Because if you understand the reason behind something, then you're very likely to not forget something. So just like in this video, if I'm explaining the 3 things that you need, the 3 unconventional tips that you need to succeed as a presenter when you're recording videos or when you're hosting sessions or when you're doing presentations, if I keep emphasizing that that's the reason why, then you're never going to forget it. And if I explain, what I've done in this video is I've broken down each one of the tips and explained why it works. So now you really resonate with the ideas of having purpose behind everything that you say. You really understand, you really resonate with moving and having hand gestures to emphasize tone and key points. And you also understand having genuine expertise with what you're saying. So I've explained it down, I've broken down, I've explained the whys, and now you can take that into your own revision, you can take that into your own practice, and you can start recording and start improving in your recording as soon as today.